So there's a lot of, as Sienna mentioned, there's a lot of really interesting things going on in Japan right now. Japan is becoming, when I first went there almost 20 years ago, it was still very Japan. You know, it was very closed off. It wasn't very international, you know, to the degree that I see it being now. People now speak English much more regularly than they did back then. Startups, Sienna mentioned this as well. When I went there the second time in 2008, I was interested in startups and business, and there was not much there at all. All of the VCs that I talked to, they were still kind of these predatory VCs. They would offer you $30,000 and want half of your company, and just like you couldn't raise money on good terms. There were no incubators. The idea that you would leave a large company and go start a startup was ludicrous. So that's all changed. It's it's still not quite like the Bay Area, but it's definitely different. There's incubators, the VCs understand better investing terms, and it's much more of a founder-friendly environment. There's a lot of cool foreigners there too. So I've got a lot of friends there that are. Here's some of my friends here. Matt, standing right next to me, he's the CEO of Gendo, which is a great startup based in Tokyo. And then Brandon, he's the founder of B-Trax, which is a San Francisco-based design firm. And then this guy is one of the editors of Tech in Asia, Japan, which is really cool. Japan and Asia-based tech blog. So Japan also has a lot of challenges going on right now. So the declining birth rate is a big problem. There's ongoing financial issues. So it's an interesting place to be. I think there's a lot of opportunities there. Asia is going to be by far the biggest growth area, over the next 20 to 30 years of the global economy. So it's fantastic. Japanese as a major is really interesting to me too, because in a lot of the experiences of the other speakers here kind of reinforce this for me and all the people that I've met two types of people that get into either Japanese, either they major in it or they learn it along the way. The one type is basically they get some exposure to Japan, they love it. They'll go and they'll start off as maybe like an English teacher in Japan, but they stay there. So I know a lot of guys that have been there for 20, 30 years, and they only rely on their Japanese experience, and they don't learn anything else along the way. And that becomes really challenging over time because it's kind of a hard world out there, and if you don't pick up any other skills along the way, it becomes very difficult to turn it into something that can be sustained that you can build upon. So it all depends on what your goals are and what you want to do. But if you're looking for, if you want to build a career that is based around Japan, one of my biggest pieces of advice is also learn other skills as well. When I was graduating the first time, a guy told me I was working at a Japanese-based company here in London, Ohio. And I met this guy, he was Japanese, and he was a guy I respected. He said, it's great that you speak Japanese, but you also need some technology. And technology can basically be extrapolated to some other specialization. You have to be able to do more than one thing. So it's interesting because Japanese, in my opinion, is a major that basically requires you to go out and build your own career in whatever way you want to. It gives you a lot of learning tools, it gives you a lot of differentiation in terms of language exposure. You meet a lot of great people, but you also need to supplement it with something else. So the last few slides I'm going to talk about financial stuff a little bit. I know it sounds a little bit mundane, but the economy, when I started Japanese and when I went through school 20 years ago, it was a pretty different world, than it is now. The internet wasn't really out there. There were no smartphones. It was things have changed so much in the last 20 years, and if you look at how things are probably going to change over the next 10 to 20 years, it's going to be, I think, even more dramatic. So I pay a lot of attention because I'm in startups and finance and everything. I try to pay a lot of attention to kind of larger macro trends around things, and there are a couple of things that I see. And people ask me, for my advice or whatever on, they're just starting out or starting their company. So I always try to give them stuff that's going to be really practical. One thing is a lot of jobs today, this is kind of a dramatic statement, but a lot of jobs that you see out there today, they're not going to look the way they do in 10, 20, 30 years. AI, machine learning, these are all things that are starting to have a real impact. I'm involved with 2 companies now, Insometrics, and I'm working on a new one now too. And they're both related to automating things away that used to be done by people. And there's dozens, if not hundreds, of startups right now focused on doing exactly that. There's a lot of technology coming out of open source projects and big companies like Google and Facebook and so forth. And there's actually a really good video out there. You can search for it on YouTube. It basically talks about automation and how things are going to be automated in almost every field, even software engineering. There are major portions of that can be automated, and that's going to happen. And so, one of the major challenges of the economy, over the next probably 50 years, is really going to be figuring out how do you support large populations when the types of jobs we're used to up until now are just gone or outsourced, and even outsourcing can be automated to a great degree. So that's one thing to think about. The other thing is, and again, I'm a big fan of dramatic statements. So the other thing is the middle class, is going to continue to disappear. This is I grew up in middle class Worthington, Ohio, and had a great upbringing. I meet more and more people where that's just not possible. It may be a little bit more extreme in California, where I see it now. If you're familiar with the housing crisis, especially in San Francisco, it's pretty ridiculous. You can't have a normal middle class style lifestyle on the type of incomes, even inflation adjusted, that we experienced, growing up with. So this is something that's going to be a big theme for people. Society is going to continue to stratify into, the wealthy, or at least be financially independent, and the rest. And just figure out what's important to you. I'm not saying you have to be a billionaire or anything, but figure out what's going to matter to you. The people that I run into, they're most interested in being financially independent in one form or another. That doesn't necessarily mean, again, being rich or wealthy or anything. It's just about having more control over your own career and doing the things having the freedom to focus on, travel or Japanese or, whatever is interesting to you. So that's always been a priority for me. Money's not really a priority for me, but I try to use it as a tool to build the type of life that I'm interested in. So I'm interested in staying relevant in Japan. So I use my business to continue to build my network and stay up with Japanese. I'm interested in music and travel and lots of other things too. So you can use it as a tool. So this is why I talk a lot to people that are interested in stuff about ways that you can build this sort of independence. And really, there's a really good, you guys know Reddit, there's a really good Reddit thread that talked about this. This guy who's really successful talked about there's 3 main ways basically to get to a state of financial independence. Again, I'm not talking about going out and sacrificing all your dreams for making money, because that's not worth it. I've seen a lot of people doing that. But what I'm talking about is just building a lifestyle that you can sustain your other interests around. And basically, it comes down to ownership of things like either businesses or investments, real estate investments, sales. So my friend Ben, I mentioned him earlier, he's basically, he has 2 of these. He specialized very early on. He was one of the first American or foreigner game producers in Japan. And he's also a hustler. He's really good at sales. He's good at building relationships. And so he's been able to build the type of career in life, that he wants. And I've kind of focused on specialization early on, and then basically through my career, ownership of the business and sales are things that I picked up along the way. So just these are the tools that you can use to gain some sort of financial independence, and then go back and focus on all the really fun stuff that'll inspire you on an ongoing basis. So that's pretty much it. Just wanted to share a few of those, and I'm sure we'll have more time to talk about stuff.